If you haven't seen part 4A of this video, I highly recommend you do so before watching part B. This video is basically a demonstration of how I use some of the autofocus and manual focus features inside the XC15 to get the footage that I get. Very little of what you're going to see has been shot in autofocus. A great deal of it has been shot in manual focus using the feature one push continual autofocus as a means of racking focus and releasing that into manual focus, which provides stability until we reach the next point where we're going to rack focus. So what I thought would be best to do would be start with some in-studio shots so you can get a kind of clinical idea of how the autofocus and the manual focus and the one push continual autofocus works in the XC15. And that's what you're going to be seeing first of all. Let's start our test by focusing in on the little Dutch girl from my wife's china cabinet. Now we're going to push the continual autofocus button and we're focusing in on our schoolboy and release, and notice he stays nice and stable. I can move right out and the lens will not change focus at all because we're in manual focus, and it'll stay that way until I decide to change it. Now we're going to shoot the pilgrim, one push continuous autofocus, and now he is in focus. Release. Now we're going to push for the little Dutch girl. She's in focus now. Release. Now we're in manual focus. Push our continual autofocus, and the schoolboy's in focus. Now I'm going to leave the button down. Though she focus is fine, pilgrim focus is fine, but watch what happens when I move the pilgrim outside the center. We get a nice focus on the chair. In this shot, we're actually in autofocus, and I'm going to be overriding the autofocus with the manual focus ring, focusing on the Dutch girl. Now I'm going to override again, focus back on the pilgrim, override again, focus on the Dutch girl. In this shot, we're actually in manual focus. Now I'm going to do my one push and get the little duck in focus. I'm having trouble with him because I don't have him squarely in the center and lifted up high enough in the center frame. Okay. Now we're focusing on the second duck and release. Now we do our one push autofocus on the big duck and release. Now it's stable. Now we're going to have another try, and we're in manual focus. Here's our one push continual autofocus. Lift, and now we're in manual focus. Here's our one push, and there we are, focusing on the tiny duck. Release. Make sure that you release so the image will remain stable. And now the middle duck, and push, and she's in focus, or it, or whatever. Release. And now we got a nice shiny blue big duck there. Release. One push, focus. Now we're in manual focus, release. It's stable. And now we're going to focus on the little duck again. Successful. Here we are in manual mode, and I've just used the continuous autofocus push to focus the little duck and release the autofocus. So now I'm in full manual mode. I move over to the second duck. I push, and voila. I focus in on the second duck and release, and it stays stable. I get to the third duck and I push, and he's nice and sharp, and release. And now that's going to stay that way even when I have the duck in a remote place on the screen, and it won't move until I decide to push the autofocus. And there we go. So we've racked focus on the shades. As long as we're on the subject of ducks, here are some real live ducks. We're in, again, manual focus, and I'm going to do my one push, and I get a nice little rack on these ducks. And here again, you would assume that I'm in autofocus, but I'm not. I'm in manual focus. I've racked on those flowers, and now I'm dropping down. I'll do my one push autofocus and get a nice smooth rack and release, so I get a really good shot on the waterfall as well. Pretty nice. As you can see, I'm starting in manual focus. I do my one push, and that's not very pretty, but I've got to get my dogs in here. So now I'm actually in manual focus. I do my one push to focus Daisy. Yep, that's right, Daisy. And now you notice I'm in manual focus here until I see Mr. Mel, and I do a one push on him and get pretty nice focus on a little black dog. Again, we're in manual focus. I've racked on these leaves and stuff. Notice the lens is not hunting until I move over here, press my focus, and now I have a rack on the statues. Again, in manual focus, I racked on that before I began to record. Now I'm moving over, and I'm going to rack on the pretty little purple flower. I guess that's purple. Now here's a flower I racked before I began recording, and notice as I move it, everything is stable in the background. Here's a shot that's not all that pretty, but it starts in manual focus. I press my one push continuous focus, and I'm going to leave it down now. And you'll notice as I lift up from the flowers, I'm maintaining focus as the flowers get further away, and then I continue to lift up until finally we're actually focusing on the truck. So that's continuous autofocus. For this shot, I decided to use the slow setting for the push autofocus, and as you can see, it really is slow. But there are times that this can be a really nice effect. I racked focus on these leaves before I began to record. Started to record. Now I move down and push my continuous autofocus and get a nice rack on the falls. In this shot, we have a case of the autofocus gone wild. It doesn't want to focus in on the rose. Notice it's on the grass. So I use my manual focus wheel to override it and draw focus on the roses. The ability to override the autofocus when you're in autofocus by using the manual focus wheel is really invaluable. Again, we're in manual focus, and I've racked focus with the one push continual autofocus on this tree, and I'm going to move out and do another one push focus on the trees behind. And you see they focus right pretty. Now, as long as I leave my thumb off the one push continual autofocus, it's hard to say. It's going to be stable. Now I move back, I do my one push continual autofocus, and there we're focused in well on that tree, the closest tree. Now we're going to focus on these guys that are further away, and then finally these guys all the way down there. and back here, and look over here. So all that basically in manual focus using the one push continual autofocus. I'm sort of getting it down now. There are 3 speeds for your autofocus, and it applies also to the one push. That is the fast speed. The one coming up now is going to be the medium speed for focus. There it starts, and as you see, that makes a pretty nice rack. And here comes the slow one, and I think it kicks in right there, but watch how slow it is focusing on these turtles, which are also slow. It's kind of appropriate now that I think of it. Well, I think from this demonstration you can see that the combination of autofocus, manual focus, and continual one-push autofocus is really a fantastic combination that you find in the XC15, and it offers almost an endless number of variations that you can use to enhance your video, get beautiful focus racks. It just takes a little patience to learn the techniques, and it really doesn't take that long anyway. I'd like to apologize because I haven't graded this footage very much, but I thought, well, I'll put it on anyway because this is really all about focus, right? Not about all the fine points of grading and exposure and color and all that. So with that, I'll close, and I'd like to leave you with this piece of very obvious advice that's often easily forgotten. In order to get good, dependable focus, whether it's autofocus or manual focus, make sure that you light your subjects well. You'll get the quality that you want and the dependability that you want if you do that.